Hey, good morning. McGear, timeless, open comb, 68 gap stainless steel, knurled handle. Zenith, B2 bore brush. Feels like an aluminum or chromed something handle. I think it's aluminum. Nacet blade, already installed. Today, 180 shaves. Today's my 180th shave on this blade. Here's my little counter for the 180th decade and all the other dots. Let me move my little tab right there. There we go. So you can count the dots if you wanna. But we're looking at a 179 prior to now. Midnight Stag for this month because of Austere August. Starting to smell a little bit more of the leathery scent. Leather starting. Gasoline used to be kind of the top note from the dry puck, but the leather is starting to come up. Maybe it's about even. Interesting. Got to throw this brush to soak. It's a bore brush. If you're new to that, you need to soak those guys for at least 3 minutes or so to the hairs actually absorb water, and so you need to give them time to do that. So I do that while I prep my gear usually. All right, the aftershave is Midnight Stag again. I've got my lather bowl by Roger Quintero. He's a designer and he 3D printed it for me. If you have access to a 3D printer, there's a link in the description to get to these files. I like it a lot. My favorite aspect probably is the inturned lip. I like that more so than the ridges, personally. That interned lip just keeps that lather in. A lot less work managing lather and a lot more enjoyment stirring it. Also like the brush rest a lot. And this center divot, I guess it's the opposite of a divot, center lump. It holds the brushes when you put them down and you aren't able to take the time to put them actually in the brush rest. That center lump will keep them from just shoosh sliding in and getting the handle all soapy and stuff. I mean, I like the ridges okay, but to be honest, they improve the speed by a little bit, not a lot. And so these other changes are more significant to me. I am going to maybe take, because the 3D printing, you know, it has left these little ridges, micro ridges, if you will, because it prints in layers and it builds it up in layers. And so there's leftovers from that. And so I'm going to take maybe some sandpaper and get in there and see if I can smooth those out. All right. Throw some water on my face and I'll get back with you. All right, and let's go ahead and show you the blade. Nacet. It's really interesting. For a long while I used it with from maybe use 90 to maybe 170 maybe. I used it almost exclusively with my Gillette Sheraton, and it's an open comb, and you could see the little open comb marks, almost like stains on near the edge of both sides there. But obviously it looks like that's worn away because I've switched away from that razor. The geometry was terrific for a long while, but this geometry from this timeless just seems to be better. It's more aggressive, that's for sure. With that Sheraton, I could put a new blade in it, whether it was new or 160 uses, at least for this Nacet. It gave me a great shave, and obviously it cut a little better in the early days. But this one, if I put a new young blade in it, I can shave with it, but it's a little too aggressive for me. I wouldn't want to do it every day. So I was about to sell this base plate. All right, but it looks like he'll be useful in long life blades. I don't know how many times I'll hypermile a blade this far. I'm definitely interested in doing a feather. and maybe one of my favorite blades, the Gillette Silver Blue. But honestly, when you get really up in the miles, the usages, you start to only be able to use a couple of your razors. And I've got a good collection that I'd like to enjoy, and so I'm definitely going to spend more time using that the rest of my collection once this experiment has reached 200 at the end of this month. All right, I think we've been soaking long enough. So here is the soap. Yesterday, just kind of my standard method, I did 20 seconds of loading. I'm going to do 15 today. I'm going to bring it out, shake out most of the water. One benefit of a less wet brush is that you sometimes don't get as much overflow. All right, we're about to roll to the minute mark right there, so we'll go ahead and start it up. Just kind of medium pressure, maybe a touch less. Make the brush splay a little bit, like maybe display the first quarter of the bristles or something like that. And that was 15. Wow, it just seems like not very much time at all. So I'm going to set this aside so that there's no kind of standing water in there. So I'm going to set it aside so that it can dry, and then I'll cap it up kind of at the end of the shave. All right. I just had to sneeze there. So right now my thought is I am making sure that the water that's in the brush gets mixed with the soap. Then I'll start adding more water. This guy, as far as I know, seems to be fine with getting large amounts of water at a time. And so if you have figured out the math or whatever, and then you can add water at once. And you can see this is very dry and pasty looking. And yesterday, I think it was 2.5 teaspoons of water for that 20 seconds of lather. So I'm going to go ahead and add in 1.5. Since I did reduce it by 5 seconds, obviously my water is likely going to be reduced as well. So I'll start at 1.5, thinking I'll probably move up to 2, and maybe that'll be all I need. I don't know. Interesting to see if just 5 seconds of loading difference will make a big difference or a little difference. So this contest, this little side contest for Midnight Stag, was a challenge by Steven from Dogwood Handcrafts. He makes shaving brush handles. Really good ones, beautiful. Almost a shape similar to this handle here. You know, a bit on the girthy side with a slight ridge or adornment up here. But his materials, some of them are like a clear type of resin, and you can see cool stuff inside. He's got a hybrid brush that has stabilized wood as part of it, and I've actually got one of those handles, and it's really, I think it is hybrid, but it's really neat. This lather is looking really healthy and nice. I will go ahead and add more water. Now this one doesn't really offer a fatty, creamy feel. it still keeps kind of a few little air bubbles in there that don't really ever work out. They're very, very, very tiny. But what it does do is it leaves this film on your skin. It bonds nicely to your skin to protect you and give the razor good glide during the shave, and so it's doing its job well. I've reduced the load time and I still end up with a lot of lather. A lot. Still got plenty in there. I think I'm going to add a little bit more water. So this is crazy. I'm about to probably add just as much water as I had yesterday. Maybe I didn't drop as much water out of the I dropped more water out of the brush today than I did yesterday, and so it needs to compensate, you know. I mean, just some variables at play there. Maybe I pressed harder in the bowl, you know, that kind of thing. So that's why it's just good to not go by. The formula can get you part of the way there, especially if you're having trouble and you just, maybe you've been watching some videos where the guy is kind of subjective and just says, well, you know, you just add the water till it looks right. And then if you're new and you don't know what looks right, then that's not as helpful. And so maybe that's why I give more objective measurements, try to do things where that people can repeat in case they're just having real big lather trouble. All right, let's try this guy. Lots of lather. All right, get my face wet again. As I've said kind of from the beginning, I'm really happy with this brush. I've got a smaller Zenith that I really like as well, so my whole Zenith experience has been good. Bore brushes, you know. I think that the hairs have been treated, and so it softens up really quickly right out of the box. This one has had the tip split since I got it. I got it used. I'm going to add a little bit more water. That's why I like this syringe. I can add a teaspoon and a half of water just as easily as I can add 5 drops. I know it's kind of dumb looking, but works for me. And this lather is getting better, definitely, with the water. So that means I probably need to add a few more drops to my bowl as well. All right. Good scrubbing, soften up the hairs. Switch to painting to kind of thin down the layer, make sure it's consistent across your face, and you can look at it and see See, I got these farm rows whenever I do this kind of painting motion was not, now this one I want to clump just a little bit, and so you might be able to see a couple little clumps there. This is a lather that I need to run a little drier than my usual elastic standard. So that's something you can look for to once you find your sweet spot. All right, Nacet, 180. With the older blade, I definitely have to do some blade buffing, which is what you do when you make small, or I guess medium length strokes, and you go back over the same area before you move on. And you generally don't want to re-shave over an area where you've moved the lather away, unless you just got a crazy slick soap with amazing secondary slickness, and this is not really one of them. But with since I'm going back over the same area within just a second or less, it's fine. It's just fine. All right, rinse. All right, for maybe 30 or 40 seconds, I mixed in that water that I had added previously. And with the first pass doing the scrubbing and cleaning your face, you don't really need to do too much scrubbing on any other passes. So I'll switch to painting quickly, and I'm still going to end up with tons of lather. I keep reducing my soap loading time, and I keep ending up with extra lather. Cross grain now, just a light touch. You can probably see the, the razor moving as I'm shaving here, because I'm keeping it just very light. Lifting my chin nice and tall to straighten out the skin, prevent razor rash and nicks. Excellent. And again, I am about to lather up, and I've got 3 passes in my bowl still. That's just crazy. Maybe my previous lather was more thick and I was compensating by water on my face, or who knows. 15 seconds. How about that? It's all the load time I needed today, and I've still got tons of lather. And it's not too thin at all. As you can see, I've got a nice thick layer wherever I want it. But you don't actually want a really thick layer. All you need is that little thin layer that bonds to your skin to protect you. All right, third pass. Also notice I'm not gripping down here. That would be a great place to grip if you needed leverage. But leverage is not what you want when you're trying to finesse a razor. And even then, right then, when I gripped it with I'm gripping it like, I can twist my arm around. I'm holding it like this. These fingers aren't actually touching the handle, and I'm just kind of letting it rest on the bottom two fingers, just to keep that maneuverability and keep the gentleness to it, so that if I hit a bump wrong, it can move over the bump instead of trying to be forced through it. All right, I'm gonna do the quick rinse here. Nice smooth feel on my face. Nice clean cut. So let's check out my trouble spot right here. You know, it's really not bad at all. But let's go ahead and, since I have a ton of lather, put a little dab on there, and I'm going to do this slide. Like this. Kind of it's more of a slicing motion since the head is moving in a diagonal pattern, and then I can switch around and do it from this way too, because the hairs are coming down this way, and so a slide pattern, if the hairs are coming this way, if I come this way with the razor, that's cross grain, and if I'm coming this way with the razor, that's a similar cross grain. We're talking about 90-degree angles. However, if the hairs are this way and I tilt the blade this way, and then but I don't have this movement, I have this movement. See, that's a diagonal, and it's a slicing motion, and a lot of times that can really be helpful in getting some good close cut, but not drawing up a irritation. And historically, I believe that was marketed by Gillette, and they called it the Gillette Slide. Well, there we go. Let's throw on some splash, and this will be an interesting day. Maybe we're going yard sailing, I don't know. It's Saturday. So we'll see. I'll be with the family for sure, and not a normal work day, you know? So we'll see if they notice the strength of the Stag. Nice. All right, well, the menthol is going to kick in. That's the one thing I don't like about this whole setup. But after a while, the menthol will go away, and I'll be able to smell the awesomeness, the leathery, the smoky woodness, the burning wood maybe, and a little bit of gasoline and oil. Loosened up the razor, shook it out really well, holding one side so nothing spun around. And now I'll place it up and away from children, not taking the blade out since I'm going to be using it tomorrow. And there we go. There we go. We'll strap on the towel. It's a big brush. It's 26 millimeter. I might prefer a little smaller one because it does splay a good bit, and I've got kind of a narrow section of land here to work it, but it works great. And it's an inexpensive brush, I think, so that makes it even better. How much water did we use? Wow, yeah, 3 teaspoons. Half a teaspoon more than yesterday, that had 5 seconds more load time. How about that? As usual, at this location, the water is hard, and I just go with tepid, whatever comes out of the cold tap water. And there we go. Nice, almost baby butt smooth on my cheeks, and a good shave on my neck, so I'm happy with that. So You think I could get away with 10-second load tomorrow? Why not try it? That's just crazy. Give it a shot. I mean, there's probably it's probably not uniform from the very beginning. Yeah, there's probably, I don't know, 7 seconds where you're kind of bringing the surface of the soap and kind of livening it up with some water. And so there's probably this base amount of time that just always needs to happen. I don't know, but anyway, why not? I'll try 10 seconds tomorrow, see what happens. Anyway, this is Sugar Daddy Shaves. I hope there was something here for you. Continuing on, day 9 of Austere August. You take care. Have a good day.